Hello and welcome, Exiles, to look at none other than a Elementalist Ignite Slam build. And I gotta say, part of the reason that I like this character is this right here. This level of AoE scaling with Elementalist on top of the all damage Ignite, on top of the damage scaling and all the other quality of life you get from Golems is just too good to ignore. I am an addict for Elementalist early game. So let's talk about a little bit of the key benefits. First of all 5 of the golems you benefit from. It was actually a hard choice for me to choose which golem to drop because every single one of these, every single buff is relevant. Not too many builds can say that. There's a lot of builds where it's like, I'm not an attack build. I don't care about the accuracy. Therefore, I don't care about ice golem. Or it could be, I don't really care about the, let's say, dot multi and chaos rise because I'm a CI hit build. You know, there's examples like that where you don't benefit from some of the buffs. But for our character, an Ignite attack-based build, I care about every single buff. Dot multi is damage, chaos res is resistance, lightning golem, speed, mana regen is important to sustain my mana. Ice golem, I need the accuracy and I need the crit chance because I care about consistently proccing elemental overload. Flame golem, AoE percent damage, and stone golem, percent defense and regen, all of it's beneficial. I played most of the run with the flame golem, but when I started getting into red maps and I wanted to be a bit tankier, I swapped into stone golem. Ultimately, you want all 5, and to get them, you can do an Anima Stone, or you can do the double Golems helmet. A lot of those things are very good for Elementalists, but that's just a little bit later on in progression. Initially, you're going to have to pick something to drop. So that's number one. Pro number 2 is on slam builds. There's actually an interesting cry that gives you damage multiplier. Exerted attacks deal more damage per affected ally. Because we have these golems, that means Rallying Cry is actually giving us like 20% more damage from these golems. And then when we add our 5th golem, it'll give us the full 25% more damage, which is kind of nice. For an auto exert to give that much, this is a 15% reservation. It's giving my character 20% more damage on my Ignite. Fantastic. And then, of course, Seismic Cry is big AoE scaling. Combine that with the Golem that gives AoE, and combine that with the Fire Nose that have a bit of AoE here. We could also grab AoE here, and that would feel pretty consistent. That's just a good time for having a big slam. And on top of this big slam, if there's like a pack of monsters out here, we also are running Ignite Prolif, which will then make a bigger AoE Prolif right there to then spread even further, which feels pretty good to be just jumping around, slam, proc, hits big AoE, ignites, and then just keep on moving. I'll give a showcase of this later on if you guys want to see the gameplay. We can do a quick little tropical island map. We'll just run it unID'd, and hopefully it doesn't have Fizz Reflect. Now, one thing I want to note is you may think, Lance, you did this run with a 6-link. No, I did not. I dropped a 6-link during the run, and chat bullied me into only using a 5-link. So this is an ice golem. It could very easily be in this 4th socket here. That's what we ran it as, is a 5 socket like this with Swift, Fist of War, Earthquake, Restoration, and Ignite Prolif. And you might be wondering, why Earthquake over other skills? Earthquake has about a 640 effectiveness. Sunder's about a 620. There's some of the better Ignite melee attacks you can do. Obviously, they can't compete with something like Eviscerate, which has like, I don't know, 1,300 to 2,000% effectiveness. But the thing about Eviscerate is it's a retaliation skill. It has some clunk built into it. That's kind of up to you if you want to play that. But I just wanted to play the slam, boom, move on, slam, boom, move on. That's what I wanted to do. And that makes less duration and Swift Affliction work pretty well because you want that less skill effect duration to make the Earthquake pop faster. Now, that being said, you could very easily play Sunder and just have better damage links here, which would just make your single target better. By all means, do that if you want to. Sunder's very good. Can recommend. Okay, so that's what's going on there with the links. As for the character, I played this majority of the time with a staff because there's very good staff nodes here and here, which also staves have very good masteries, like the percent life per red socket, percent mana per blue socket, 30% defense, recover on attack block, stuff like that. That has some really good links. But partway through the run, I dropped an axe, which was much better than my staff I had. The staff had a good lightning roll and good fizz. This had a good lightning roll or similar lightning roll, similar fizz, but had a little bit extra fire and a little bit of extra dot multi. And so I chose to make the swap over to the axe setup. I'm not sure if this was actually better. It was probably similar DPS after like the wasted 5 passives, like 30 dot multi for 5 passives. That's kind of a decent trade, but it still was like, I lost some pretty good mastery points as well as the percent effectiveness on these nodes was comparable / maybe slightly better than these axe ones. So keep that in mind for your own decision making. But the idea is big flat elemental staff, and maybe later on when you're min-maxing more, you can do like a high-end one hand plus shield type of thing when you're going late game. But for an early game progression, I thought the staff, just some flat damage on the staff, worked well. Definitely there aren't too many builds that play random flat damage on staves, so you could probably be pretty cheap to get yourself a starter weapon if you chose to start this on the upcoming 327 patch. I mean, we'll see what kind of notes they give us, if they buff ignite or buff any of the slam skills again, which I kind of doubt. There could probably be some nerfs, we'll see. But yeah, that's some of the thought process. Now, outside of that stuff, Elementalist gives the all damage ignite golem nodes. Those are the primary catalysts of why I wanted to play ignite with Elementalist. Obviously the all damage ignite is a classic, but the other thing I care about on Elementalist is this shock node. Very good damage scaling, and Bastion of Elements works as a really nice early game tank setup, whereas late game you can end up going for exposure. I think that works pretty dang well for more DPS scaling. That's the thought process, and I had quite a bit of fun doing the run. I don't know if I said it, but the timer that's next to my camera, that is left over from last night. That's how long it took us to do the 2 Void Stone run. I will link in the description of this video a link to that run so you can see how it played, how the transition went. I started out as Righteous Fire and then swapped to Ignite Slams once I got the Cruel Lab for Shaper of Flames. You can make your judgments of how good you think the character is. Let's go ahead and do this quick little map showcase of what it looks like. Mapping. I'm going to showcase a T8 map with gain life crit and no regen. That's problematic. Okay. That's the one mod I will skip because I do not have sustain for no regen. So we'll showcase this instead. We did do up the T16s, and the way you do 2 stone runs is you just kind of bum rush as high of tiers as possible. It's, in my opinion, not a good way to play a league start. It's pretty inefficient because you need to fill out your Atlas anyways, and you're just forcing your character into harder content than it should be in. Normally, if you're filling out the Atlas, normally you'd be around this level if you're just like filling out all your white maps, all your yellow maps, and this would be more of what it would look like if you're doing like level appropriate content, not just forcing the hardest thing possible. Once I started to just try to skip up map tiers as soon as possible, I ended up, you know, it starts feeling a bit ZDPS, but that's any build you do on a league start where you just force your way right to Eater and Exarch. Is you're pushing builds past what they should be doing, especially on like an SSF run. So anyways, it's just part of the meta of like, if you're talking about a 2 stone run, it's not about appropriately filling out your Atlas. It's about just ignoring everything else, putting your entire Atlas into map sustain stuff. But as for like, if I was doing the content appropriate for this character, this is kind of what it would look like, and it just kind of crushes. Now I go ahead and I take this at a T16. It's going to be fine for mapping, but the bosses will be a bit slower. So for context, I'm showing both. Hopefully that's appreciated. For context, now this is what a T15 looks like, and this is a T15 with a Maven Witness. I didn't do all my Maven Witnesses, I just did the first 2, so this is the one for like 5 stones. So go ahead and give this a showcase as well. Now keep in mind, this is like fine for clear at this point, but where it'll feel rough in terms of like the early game damage, what I'm talking about is when I go to do boss single target. Like, it's still completely fine for map clear at this point. This is a completely like SSF gear run. Our character's gearing is rather bad, and then if you have like a tankier rare, like this one was fire ignite resistant, I classed his flammability on that because I could tell he wasn't really taking a lot of damage. And now we'll see how we do against this spider. I'm also using this. I think there might be a dot multi craft on Prismatic. Okay, get out of here. Only the burning ground is showing me. Okay, sorry, I was gonna say this real quick. On Prismatic Tincture, I found one with melee attack speed. I think there are ones that roll with dot multi for attacks, which is like an insane DPS snapshot when you do want to do an ignite. So if you start setting up for like longer duration ignites, that can be very effective. There's also the thing which I forgot about when I started this fight is you want to Frost Blink every now and then. You'll notice there's a 50% shock. That's because Frost Blink has both combustion and what else does it have? It has a unbound ailments on it, so it gives a high effectiveness ailment. So yeah, anyways, this is what it looks like doing a much more scuffed situation of a T15 boss. Granted, this one's with a Maven. I don't know if Maven is doing like healing or something. It feels like the spider was healing throughout that fight. Maybe there was some tank mods for Maven. I don't know, but that gives you the context. It's fine for clear for like a red map, but once you get to those bosses, that's when it's like, okay, this is a league start character that's way under leveled. That stuff starts to show. Ultimately, I mean, you can make up your own mind, but damage scaling is so freaking dependent on gear. A trash random rare like this is going to do way less damage than a good rare with a lot of flat. You get the idea. But hopefully it gives you an idea of what this sort of character looks like. I had a lot of fun doing the run. You can check out the VOD if you're curious to see what it looks like and make your own mind. But I think this is something that would be considerable. If you like this idea of slam ignites, check it out. I think it worked pretty well for all things considered, the gearing, the time it took me to do the run. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. As always, thanks for watching. Take care and peace out. Have a good one, Exiles.